People are demanding more from life, and many of the old scripts they inherited are outdated and bring nothing but anxiety and stress. Does this sound familiar? Individuals in the world itself are experiencing a tremendous shift in energy and consciousness, and while unsettling at times, it can be the ride of a lifetime if navigated properly. That's where this show, Mind to Heart, with me, Craig Richardson, carves a pathway from your mind to your heart to activate that innate compass to overcome whatever life sends your way. So won't you join me for this powerful, inspirational, and fun experience? And let the journey begin. Hi, I'm Craig Richardson, and welcome to Mind to Heart. In this show, we take a journey from our logical, critical mind down to our heart, where real transformation can occur. My guests help us understand our journeys by telling us their paths and what they've learned along the way. Today, I want to delve into the concept of 3D versus 5D, which we hear a lot about these days. I'm old enough to remember, but it's been 50 years since the Fifth Dimension, of all names of a band, sang their famous The Age of Aquarius. In it, they sing that this age will promise, quote, harmony and understanding, sympathy and trust abounding, no more falsehoods or derisions. And on one hand, with the 60s and that revolution and the New Age movement, we seem to be opening ourselves more up to an Aquarian age. Yet we don't have to go very far to see strife and division surrounding us that's always haunted humanity. So to get to the bottom of all of this, I'm delighted to bring in my guest, Kimberly Barrett, a woman who leads an online psychic development circle that I began attending in January. She's an angel intuitive, psychic medium, quantum energy healer, Reki Master, as well as a licensed clinical social worker. Kimberly is someone who not only understands the differences between the Piscean age and the Aquarian age, or the movement from 3D to 5D, but she's also lived it. Kimberly, welcome to Mind to Heart, and thank you for taking the time out today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's get into definitions, because I actually didn't hear, and I'm a little late to this movement, but I never even heard the difference between, I knew what three-dimensional was, obviously from geometry or whatever it was, which obviously not very well. But let's start with just definition. So what exactly is the difference between 3D and 5D?
So, Craig, I've been looking at this, and I tapped into my guides, who I call the Galactic Fleet. That's just a nickname I've given them. And they want me to talk more about our consciousness, like the collective consciousness and your own consciousness versus any of the other pieces of third dimension and fifth dimension, right? So in third dimensional consciousness, we are in awareness of our bodies, of our lives, of the material things that are around us. We go to work, we do these things. The other piece of third dimensional consciousness is fear, control, guilt, shame, blame, competition, these type of things. That's a third dimensional consciousness. And the understanding that I'm given is in third dimension, it's a denser consciousness, and you're in the energies of, sort of like the material realm is the end all and be all, that this is what we have. Some of us can open up to understanding that we are spirit having a material existence, right? But that's kind of like as far as we go. The other piece of third dimensional consciousness is you're looking outside of yourself in order to feel better, connect in with a higher power, those type of things is going outside of yourself, is my understanding of third dimensional consciousness. Also, most people, when you're in third dimensional consciousness, you're not really connected to the earth. So you're not really grounded in and connected into the earth. A lot of people are in third dimensional consciousness not really feeling that connected to our earth and also not connected to that higher power.
Or even each other, right? Or
yeah. Or even to each other, right? Like we're not really feeling very connected at all or to each other. So in this third dimensional consciousness, I keep thinking of the Celestine prophecy, if you remember that when it came out. The Celestine prophecy was written by James Redman. It was like in the 90s, I think, when it came out, around that time. And it was explaining that we're going to be in this human evolution, that we are evolving from one level of consciousness to a completely different level of consciousness. And in that understanding is that we are actually all made of energy. Mm-hmm. That we are energy, that we can tap into that energy, that everything is made of energy. And our science is starting to discover that now. Everything is energy and we're all connected in it. We can connect into this energy. Most of us are not. We're wearing shoes when we go outside, so we're not connected into the earth energy. We're not understanding that we're energy beings. We're not connecting into that energy. And so part of fourth dimension, in my understanding, was sort of this awakening. I think a lot of 12 steps came out. And when Bill Wilson, I've studied this quite a bit, when he wrote the 12 steps, he wrote in there, you get rocketed into the fourth dimension of consciousness. And that's when you have more of that awakening and awareness. You become aware of whether you're connected or not.
I was going to ask you, because fourth dimension is something we tend to skip over. We say 3 to 5.
We skip right over 3 to 5, when really part of the access, this is what's coming through to me now. So I always say, take what you like, leave the rest. If it resonates with you, it's for you. When I channel it in and I get the connection, my understanding is consciousness. We are all energy. That in the third dimensional consciousness, we're not really connected to the energy. We're not feeling connected to the energy. We're not connected from our crown chakras, so to speak. Also, we're not connected most of the time from our root chakra, right? And so what we're doing is we're getting in these control dramas. We're in fear. Right. We have all these other control dramas where we're taking energy because we're not getting the energy, unlimited supply of energy from our source, right? And if we understand energy in its truest form, it is infinite, unlimited energy. We are infinite, unlimited energy beings projecting out into an infinite, unlimited environment. Only we don't remember this because we come into what we call kind of like the veil of forgetting. And in that, we've been in this third dimensional consciousness, and we've also been taught, many of us in our belief systems, that in order to be happy, you have to get things from outside of yourself to be happy, right? It's sort of like the separation consciousness that we've been in.
Well, there's no question that the modern culture and the messaging is clearly one of division. You don't have to go very
it's and then there's polarities. So we know that in third dimension, we came into it to learn from this sort of like duality. So in this dimension, in order to have form, we have up, down, left, right, right? In order to build form, we have this sort of like, light and dark. In order to see the light, you have to have a shadow to differentiate the light. So we have sort of this shadow. I think it was all created for purpose, but when you're in third dimensional consciousness, you believe that your body and your mind are real. Mm-hmm. So there's this third dimensional consciousness around your body, your physical body, and the understanding of healing from a third dimensional consciousness would be sort of like material ways of healing yourself, right? You're not tapped into the energy. So you're, And I'm not against any of this. I think there's a place for pills and surgeries, but it's all, pills and surgeries versus having other ways to heal, right?
Yeah, Edgar Casey was called the father of holistic medicine, and that was the 1930s. And
Yeah.
it seems like we took a little bit of a step back since then.
Yeah, and so he was bringing that in because he was in more fifth dimensional consciousness. Edgar Casey could connect in those higher levels of consciousness. And that's what he was teaching. So you'll see that there are many people and many beings that have come in throughout centuries, that have brought in higher levels of consciousness, right?
Well,
and taught us.
I just started a biography of Nikola Tesla. You talk about a guy that was
Tesla was, yes, he was fifth dimension and beyond, right? And so he understood all of that. So understanding that what we're doing is we are shifting from that third dimensional to the fifth dimensional consciousness.
Well, and that's a good. We're gonna need to take our first break here, and that's a good segue, I think, because what I want to get into in the second segment is what you just said is how do we go about that? Okay, so we hear 3-dimension, 5-dimension, but how does an individual go about that? So on the other side of the break, we'll get into that. You mentioned the 12-step program, but how do we do our own work to raise our vibration? So we'll be back.
We'll talk a lot about how do we, what is 5D and how do we get into it? Absolutely.
Okay, great.
You're driven, and it totally shows. Your career is taking off, you're killing it in the mom game. But did your health needs make it on the plate this week? Tune in to the Boss Up Babe radio show, where Carissa Adkins helps babes show up, boss up, and thrive. Every second and fourth Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Become the boss babe you were meant to be. To sign up for one of Carissa's group coaching programs, visit 365dailyhustle.com.
Are you ready to shift your current beliefs about death? From debilitating pain and loss? Follow Angie Corbett Kuiper as she shares that through choice, present moment awareness, and keeping an open mind. Anything is possible, even in death. Tune in to Beyond Proof Radio with Angie, redefining death and loss, every first Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more, visit BeyondProof.com.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the new year. During this time of need, I've been called to offer my life coaching services for free. That's right, free, no strings attached. Ram Dass said it best, we're all walking each other home. I'd like to support your walk with my coaching skills. To start the process, hit me up at miles2gocoaching.com and under Book Online, select Is Coaching Right for Me? After that, we'll schedule time to meet and map out whatever you want to work on. I look forward to hearing from you, and remember, you can catch me on Transformation Talk Radio the second and fourth Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. See you soon.
Can't get enough of Eye of Soul Radio? Join Psychic Medium Jamie every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio. Take a deeper look at the raw side of spirit. Nothing is off limits. Connect with lost loved ones and explore these vulnerable subjects with the compassionate guidance of Psychic Medium Jamie. You are not alone. Eye of Soul, Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, only on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Get empowered. Transformation Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome back to Mind to Heart with my guest, Kimberly Barrett. before we get into our next segment, how do people get a hold of you? You had your Facebook page. What is that again?
You can get a hold of me right now on Facebook, which is Ananda Intuitive Healing by Kimberly.
Okay. And there'll be something on the bottom that'll help people too as well. And my website is craigericardson.com. Kimberly, before the break, we started getting into the sort of the how-tos. Can we pick up there and how do people know they're in 5D and what steps can they do to make sure they stay there?
Yeah. So 5D is that, consciousness level where you are aware of who you really are, that you are energy. There's no more time. You're fully present in the nowness, in the now moment, that everything is happening all at once. That the consciousness is from that heart chakra. And so the consciousness is what they were singing, fifth dimension, because clearly they were in the fifth dimension and they started singing about it, and that's going to be coming for us. So the people that did that band, I think it was brilliant, right? Yeah. They were bringing it in early, that we are going to be waking up to much more compassion. There's no competition. It's way more community minded, being of service to others, being helpful, that divine love. There's less competition. So in relationships, it's way more intuitively driven and sort of like being, able to have that balance of the divine feminine and divine masculine energies. So there's going to be a lot more peace, harmony. But I think that we are shifting and evolving there. So not everyone's going to get there all at once. Now, my galactic
therein lies a struggle, right?
Yeah, there's a bit. It's seemingly of a struggle. My understanding, the pathway to get there, part of it is through using that fourth dimension kind of consciousness, right? So my understanding of fourth dimension is you're in awareness. You become aware of whether you're connected or not. You become aware of what energies and frequencies and vibration that you're in. And then you can shift it and start to get to higher states of consciousness. It's kind of like the neutrality zone, the neutral zone.
Timeout zone.
Yeah. So you start to identify the good, bad, right, wrong, polarized duality thinking and feeling and those type of things, and you start to detach from your mind. So part of the pathway to get from 3D to 5D is to start to practice coming into your now moment and breathing, turning and facing the mind in a more detached, non-judgmental view. So you're increasing that awareness. So instead of when you get triggered, you're reactive. When you get triggered, you're going to pause and recognize that you are an energy being. You are creating your own reality, that you can find peace. So there's lots of different pathways that you can get on to get there, right? There's no one perfect way to get to 5D. Although I think awareness is a big part of that.
Yeah, and that's usually the step, I think. Well, the first step and the 12th step is certainly understanding that's an awareness in itself, understanding there's a higher power. I also think the challenge is, again, and I have to do this myself, it's almost like you understand what 5D by recognizing what 3D is. And there's a real pull sometimes to, like I said, the culture, the media, everything's sort of set up to keep you
in third dimension.
Yeah, right? And I've basically had to turn it off. I can't.
The suggestion has been turn off the news. And I'm going to say this here: if you really knew who owned all of the major news channels, you would turn it off immediately. Because most of it, they're using the word propaganda, but most of it is to send out fear energy so that you can be in fear. And when you're in fear, you're easier to control because you're looking outside of yourself for some type of authority, right, to give you answers. What I've been told is, this is through my guidance, through guides, through other people that I know that have guidance that's coming through for us as humans, is to really start to wake up and be aware of who you really are. Starting to recognize that there is a higher power, for one thing, and that you can tap into that power and you can receive the care and guidance from that power. And that energy and that love energy and that power is in everything. And that what we start to recognize is third dimensional consciousness is buying into the fear and, you know, these lower kind of vibration and frequency energies. When you start to wake up, you start to recognize your true power and that you are actually creating your own reality. That's fifth dimensional, is when you start to, anyone that follows Abraham Hicks, they're leading you. That's another pathway to get to fifth dimension. Course in Miracles is a pathway to get to that fifth dimension. Doing mindfulness is a pathway to it, right? And we're all starting to wake up. Intuition, starting to recognize that you have that guidance already within you. It's just a matter of and that's where we all got locked down. And it's definitely, you know, a negative thing in some ways, but it depends on how you interpret it. Because it certainly forced everyone to have way less distractions and to start to have to look at yourself. And that's what happens in the 12-step program, is you're forced to look at yourself. So they're bringing in a little bit more info. It's recognizing that you are creating your reality. And when you recognize that, you have the power to release and let go of anything that no longer serves you. And each of us, as we do that individually, we're expanding the consciousness on the planet.
True, because obviously we are. If you look at the body analogy, we are cells of making up a larger thing. So if we make this transition, and so I do think that this is a lot of what we're seeing. You know, again, between the Piscean and the Aquarius age, or the 3D, 5D, you are seeing there is a lot of questioning going on. I mean, and I agree. There's 93% of the news is owned by 6 corporations, and they're trying hard to go after the last 7%. Yeah. But people at the same time, the internet has been sort of a double-edged sword in that way, because it's also a lot harder for them to control. And people have that ability now, I think. And I stress this too in everything I talk about is, you know, you have a much more control than you think. So tune out the 3D, and even if it's just listening. I read something recently about Edgar Cayce. He said, Pachelbel's canon, whatever that.
Dolores Cannon?
No. Pachelbel canon is a.
Pachelbel canon. Okay.
It's a classic music that he actually in trance said it was the most beautiful piece that, in terms of frequencies. And so my theory is, you know, turn off CNN and then just have a loop of that on and
just listen to the higher frequencies. Exactly.
So there are a lot of things
you'll find that third dimensional consciousness, we're left to feel unsafe. When you're in fourth dimension and fifth dimension, you don't feel unsafe because you know who you are. And you have that ability to have your ability to respond, your ability to set boundaries for yourself, your abilities to stand in your own authentic truth and use your voice and speak that truth, right? And what you're releasing is everything that's not that, right? Because you're going from the mind to the heart, right? And part of that is going to that heart space in your deep knowing. You can't get there if you don't pause and be with yourself. So a lot of what we've been taught to do is be busy doing, distracting, right? Eating foods that are heavy, that get us, not really, a lot of it was created so that it keeps you from being awake, right? Unless you're an energy healer and you shift the energy of the food, you're taking in food that's really keeping you in lower density and lower consciousnesses. So the way to bypass that is to raise your own vibration and raise your own frequency. And what I mean by that, if you get the book Power versus Force, they explain the vibration and frequency, right? That if you're in these lower vibrations, they are the fear, the anger, these more negative vibrations, versus being in appreciation, gratitude, love, joy, freedom, right? What would that feel like? And what you start to identify is, for what they're telling me to tell everyone, is in your own individual journey to go within yourself and identify the things that feel bad to you versus the stuff that actually helps you feel lighter and feel more freedom, right? And you might not even know what that looks like.
Well, right? I think that's a good starting point, right? And I try again.
That starting point. How can I tell if I'm in 3D or 5D? When I'm in 3D, I'm in my head worrying. Yeah. I'm thinking too much. I'm angry. I'm reactive. I'm manipulating, martyrdom, control, depression, anxiety, these type of things. And there are pathways to get out of them. But what we do is, instead of facing it, we are spending time hiding from it. The other thing is, even in awake people, there is a huge, I was looking at that word, division and polarity. That's being done on purpose.
Yeah, there's definitely.
And what I've been told over and over again is to stay out of the polarities. Yeah, so polarities are when you're either mask, no mask, Democrat, Republican, left, right, like really polarized and solidified. And the bottom line is, I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah, right. And that's where it comes in.
Third dimensional consciousness. I'm right, you're wrong. What if there's a million different rights?
Well, and David Icke says, and we're going to need to take a break here, and we're going to get into your story, but David Icke talks about how this propaganda or mind control basically keeps us on something the size of a postage stamp. And I think what you're talking about is it's infinite. So when we get back, we're going to hear about your story, because I think you have a fascinating story, as everybody does. But so we'll hear about your journey along the way after a short break.
Tune in to The Jen Royster Show, intuitive guidance to inspire your life, each Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This amazing show is an inspirational hour that will take you on an epic metaphysical journey to discover the spiritual approach to life's greatest challenges. Dr. Jen is an internationally known intuitive counselor, spiritual teacher, and energy healer. Call in for intuitive readings and visit JenRoyster.com for more information.
What we've been taught and told is not all there is. Life is all about energy, and the energy you feel is real. Tune into the Energy Paradigm each month on TransformationTalkRadio.com with Dr. Vic. The Energy Paradigm is an eye-opening, mind-shifting, transformative, and earth-shattering way to live, work, and do business that will enable you to unlock your magic every day. Visit theenergyparadigm.com.
Are you ready to let go of the I can'ts that are holding you down? Valerie Trujillo invites you to join her community on a mission to collectively heal as a tribe, where your vulnerability is heard and reciprocated. So tune in to Love and Light with the Crystal Blue Oracle every second and fourth Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more information about Valerie and her work, visit crystalblueoracle.com.
If you struggle with fear and anxiety, you know how powerless and stuck these emotions can make you feel. You've tried everything, but nothing helped you overcome these blocks. Dr. Friedman Schaub, award-winning author of The Fear and Anxiety Solution, created a special program which helped thousands of his clients to become healthy, happy, and confident again. Learn how to eliminate negative self-talk, let go of your emotional baggage, and replace limiting beliefs. With Dr. Friedman's accelerated program, you can break through your challenges. Visit thefearandanxietysolution.com.
You've been listening, but are you watching? Tune in to your favorite shows on the Transformation Talk Radio Facebook page. We stream live video podcasts every day, and we love to hear from you. Leave comments and questions for the host to address live, on the air, and get to know the faces behind the voices you love. Just go to Facebook and search for Transformation Talk Radio.
Yeah, yippee skippy to that, baby.
Hi, welcome back to Mind to Heart with Craig Richardson. I'm delighted to have my guest Kimberly Barrett here, and we've been talking about the difference between 3D and 5D and how to get there. And as I usually do in the second part of my show, I want to get into the life story or journey of my guest. So Kimberly, you had just mentioned that you grew up in the DC, Baltimore area. Okay, well, let's start there.
So born in Baltimore, then we moved to Northern Virginia. Falls Church, kind of Fairfax area. So I was about 15 minutes from DC. So definitely grew up around the politics, right?
Was your father or mother in the government or the politics?
Not at all. So Dad started as a carpenter. He worked his way up to being foreman and general manager and that type of stuff. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, and then she had a daycare in her home for many years. Okay. So I grew up in the 70s. But we did have a very multicultural environment. I think that was important for my upbringing that I was around. Although what I witnessed at the time was a lot of that third dimensional thinking, right? There was a lot of racism.
Yeah, that was the decade, yeah.
Yeah, as each culture moved in, there was bullying and things like that, which as an empathic child, an empath is that I feel everything. I feel what other people are feeling. I could really feel that there was something wrong with that and that was not okay. But I was also brought up around a very large portion of the family that had alcohol and drug addiction problems on both sides of the family, as well as a lot of molestation, corporal punishment, things like that went on. And I know a lot of people have that story, right? Part of shifting consciousness is that we're healing that. We're releasing that out of us.
And not only us, I think, but intergenerational, right? I mean, those things are
generationally. It's been. I had a cousin that cut it off. One of the perpetrators started going after her children or grandchildren, and that was it. She was done, right? And same thing with my parents. Stopped the punishment. Stopped the physical. And we've noticed that change. We've been on this evolutionary trajectory for quite some time. It's just we've crossed over where we can really get to much higher level of consciousnesses and much more peace.
And you need to kind of shine. And I think was the name of the Spotlight. The Boston Spotlight series was called Shine a Light or something. I mean,
shining your light. Yeah. So I was a little light worker as a baby. My mom said that, I was so peaceful, but I was molested at 7. I had some corporal punishment around 3. That was not my dad. It was someone else. And from there, I think I had learned to not feel safe in those type of things. So a lot of my ability to function well, plus I didn't grow up around people that understood empaths or psychic mediumship, although my dad's side of the family is very open to mediumship. So they, I think that kept my mind open. I ended up working for hospice for a number of years, and I think it's because my parents had always been open about death and dying issues. It was never something to be feared. You could talk about it, that type of thing, which was good because I had a very close friend at 21 who had died, 21 years old, of leukemia. And I always had these connections, but I was not nurtured in them at all. And a lot of the stuff was feared and those type of things. But by the time I got to high school, I had been molested again in junior high. So I went into pure, like what I call third dimensional. I was not connected. Yeah, I was not connected with a God of my understanding. I was not connected. Well, I think I was still kind of connected to the earth in many ways. My brother and I, it was the 70s, so we didn't have parents around often.
Yeah, no.
And we were outside all the time, right? All the time outside. So we certainly, and I think that my brother and I played with, a lot of different elementals and things like that without, anyone there telling us not to do that. So, in some ways it was really great. And in other ways it wasn't. I mean, my parents were very loving. They just didn't know any better. Right. Yeah.
I think, like you said, that has evolved even, without.
And that has evolved over time. Yeah.
Just the ability for them to.
But I can tell you, by 16, I had met my friend's mom who was into crystals, and I was completely attracted to them and loved them. She gave me a protection energy thing to do. And so I had started using that. I feel like that helped a lot. But I had discovered alcohol, which happens in a lot of trauma stories.
Right.
And for a long time, I stayed very like third dimensional, stuck in my mind. And yet, because I'm a psychic medium and because I have that empath ability, a lot of that opened up by the time I was in my 20s. I started reading tarot cards. I didn't realize it, but it wasn't really the tarot that I was reading. I was doing psychic reads. I discovered later that there were
early too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the 80s by then, right? And that was
it was pretty much 1981 when I started so John Redmond's I think I'm saying his name right. When the Celestine Prophecy came out, it was actually in the 80s. So he was like way before his time, right?
Well, I grew up in the 80s too, or 70s, 80s, 60s, and I wasn't into any of this. So I feel like you were kind of cutting edge too.
I kind of cutting edge. I was around a lot of what I would call kind of environmentalists. We were very connected to the earth. I was shifted in a lot of my thinking, and being Gemini, I can change my mind and I can change my beliefs sometimes pretty quickly, other times not so much. But I did really get into, I've always been open to mysticism in so many ways. I did not grow up going to church or any of that. My dad had a very strong belief in God and Jesus and prayer and that type of thing. And my mom called it the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I kind of grew up believing in that way. Right. So, but back then I really studied a lot about, not necessarily feminism, but I guess a little bit of that, which had shifted my mind. But at 27, I got introduced to the 12 steps and it changed my life. Right. And so I really, really started doing, psychic reads, tarot cards, those type of things in 1997, 1998. So that had been in my life for a very long time. And I started shifting more into fourth dimensional consciousness.
Did you call it that at that time, or was it?
I didn't call it that at that time. What happened? Well, actually a little bit, because in the 12 steps, they talk about being rocketed into the fourth dimension. And the fourth dimension is where you learn more patience and tolerance. You learn how to not react so much. You take your own inventory. When you're disturbed, it's something in you. But I didn't understand that I was creating my own reality. I didn't understand that I could release and clear out traumas from my life, right? And then live more. But I was starting to learn how to live more in the now, live more in the nowness. I think codependency got in my way. I was very overly concerned. So if you have this, I understand. Part of 5D is you stop caring what other people think.
That's a big step for everybody.
It's huge. Yeah. So for me, it was people pleasing, approval seeking, all of that. Right. We have about 2 minutes left. So I had a major healing in 2011. And in that healing, I started really waking up. I started to be more and more aware. Mindfulness was a big part of my life. So really,
were you meditating at this point? Or?
Yeah. And I did a lot of different meditations and mindfulness, and started doing yoga like daily. Really started on that path. And I started to attract more and more people. Like when I had that healing done, it was like a major quantum shift for me. And I started attracting completely different people into my life. And I started learning how to use my gifts. I went from, I think we're going to talk about this later. So,
well, I think that's a big thing, right? Is it not that because I think you touched on something, and that's the insidiousness of having that generational trauma and abuse, is that you kind of get into that cycle, right? And then you perpetuate it. And
one of the things that I teach is that we give away our power so much. We're constantly giving our power away to other people. Constantly. Yep. We're either giving our power away or we're taking it from others. I'm controlling other people so that I can feel safe, right? Or I am giving, my decisions and my power over to other people, rather than trusting my intuition, trusting my guidance, trusting my God of my understanding type of thing, and really following that. It's good to run it by other people, but the final decision is between you and your higher self, or your God of your understanding, your higher power.
Exactly. And that's a hard place to go. And let's get more into that on the other side of the break, because I do think that you have a wonderful, it's difficult in a lot of ways. I mean, you're the sort of archetypal wounded healer, which, in a lot of ways people have that element. So let's get more into that in terms of how you've been able to overcome that and then help others now in your healing practice. So we'll pick that up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Get empowered. Transformation Talk Radio. Are you trying to lose weight but feel guilty for eating your favorite foods? Feeling deprived and resentful makes for results that aren't sustainable. Join Adrienne Craig every second and fourth Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com for her show, Master Your Mindset for a Weight Loss Breakthrough. Learn to love the journey and watch yourself succeed. For more information about Adrienne or to work with her personally, visit lifecanyon.com.
Mind to Heart with me, Craig Richardson, carves a pathway from your mind to your heart to activate that innate compass to overcome whatever life sends your way. As an intuitive life coach, I am ready to guide you to an amazing life. Tune in live every second and fourth Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more information about me, visit CraigERichardson.com.
Hi, I'm Trish Laub from A Cup of Comfort, where we talk about Care Hero topics that nobody wants to talk about. Here's your Care Hero tip of the day. As a child, I took dance lessons. I would twirl through the grocery store, leap from aisle to aisle, and dance anywhere I could. One day, while giving my parents their medications, I realized that dance was my medicine. And when I took my medicine, I was more patient and focused, and my emotional and spiritual tank was filled with more of everything I needed to be a better caregiver and daughter to my parents. I realized that self-care was not selfish, but rather self-love, and that it was essential to my ability to be resilient and to recharge and thrive instead of merely survive. So now when I need to recharge, I turn up the volume and dance it off. What's your medicine? Tune into my show to learn more. See you the second and fourth Tuesday at 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern, here on Transformation Talk Radio. Feel free to reach out to me at info@trishlaub.com.
TransformationTalkRadio.com. Let the journey begin.
Hi, welcome back to Mind to Heart with Craig Richardson. I'm delighted to have my guest, Kimberly Barrett. And in the last segment, she walked us through her early childhood, which it's tough as a lot of people went through that transformation, and she had her own traumas along the way. But what's impressed me the most, Kimberly, is that you've been able to turn that into a healing practice. You've taken that pain and that scaredness and you've turned that around. And can you pick us up? I guess we were sort of in 97 when you had that transformation, or what you did after that.
Well, I would go to 2011 when I had the major healing, and I had started healing the codependency. I started seeing a trauma-based therapist and started healing all the trauma. She cleared out a past life as if it didn't even happen. That's that, what we're going to be able to do fifth dimensionally is clear it all the way out to the seed that it was planted. Right. So part of my journey was I was living in Baltimore. It was very dense, heavy energy for me. I knew I didn't want to stay there, but I needed to be there in order to sort of like learn some things and shift and have that healing done. So it was a friend of mine. I started working at an inpatient hospice with a team of inpatient hospice workers where most of the doctors were Reiki practitioners.
Oh, neat.
And a lot of the nurses were Reiki practitioners. And we're working in hospice where, I like Ram Dass when he talks about, he never understands why hospice is run by doctors when it's purely spiritual. It's a spiritual journey. And I started discovering more and more as a hospice social worker that I was a medium because I'm doing grief work and I'm a medium and I have this like direct connection, that I was helping people really transition energetically. And I started understanding more and more that it's our consciousness, that what we're doing is we're letting go of this idea that we're physical. So what I was doing energetically was helping them release the physical, release the attachments. And that's part of what we're doing in going into fifth dimension, is releasing our attachments to who we think we are, what we think is real, all of that type of stuff.
And I can't think of any greater attachment than the attachment to life, right? I mean,
the attachment to, my understanding is there is no death.
Right.
But if
you're in that mindset and you're old and you've known nothing and you've seen your partner pass away and you know nothing, you sort of hold on. Literally, you can white knuckle that all the way to the end.
Oh yeah. And I've seen people do that, not want to let go at all, depending on what the fears are and that type of stuff. But most people, I would say 98.5% of the people, when they let go within the last 72 hours, it's a beautiful experience. Mm-hmm. And it's really, you can tell. So being someone that is empathic, I'm open to energy, I'm an energy healer naturally. Didn't know that until I really started working for this type of hospice, that I had a guy that crossed over and I couldn't tell if he was gone or not because he was still in the room with me. Mm. So I was like, do I go get the nurse?
How do you pronounce this? What time is it?
I'm like, do I go get the nurse? But what happened was I started to really open up, and I was given this book that was like a Hay House book. So I started listening to all the Hay House stuff and started waking up to, like, I read John Holland's Born Knowing and started to really wake up to my own gifts. And I started to learn Abraham Hicks and Neville Goddard and Wayne Dyer and all this stuff. So I started to really learn how to manifest in my own life. So I started taking charge. And I also listen to a lot of Sonia Choquette, and she's all about raise your vibration, raise your vibration, raise your vibration, you know? And so I kept raising my vibration. She gives a lot of great tips on like singing and dancing and just anything that's going to like be kind of playful and movement. And, you know, I even get coloring books and whatever's going to like feel good. Right. And I ended up, my understanding of manifesting is don't tell anyone what you're doing, because you want to be void of everyone's good opinions. Mm-hmm. And I had started to learn how to let go of what everyone else thinks of me. I still had some of it, but letting go of that. And I moved to Knoxville because I got laid off. I was given, you know, the layoff money and unemployment, Maryland unemployment, and moved on Maryland unemployment to Knoxville within like 2 weeks. It just all fell together.
Was there a reason that you picked Tennessee or Knoxville in particular? Or was it you were drawn there?
It was intuitive that I was drawn to it, that I was, you know, it's like what I learned to do was set my intention for what I want and then let go and just follow your intuition. Even if it looks crazy to everyone else around you, follow your intuition and do whatever it is that you're intuitively guided to. And that's what I did. And it's a lot of releasing fear. So when the fears come up, you just release the fear. I trust and I take guided action over and over again. It's trusting that the universe has your back, that, you know, it's the same thing with our evolution, that you can look out into the world and see all this negativity, or you can see that the things that are no longer working for us are falling apart. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened when I started my healing, was that it seemingly looked like my whole life was falling apart around me. But I was shifting and evolving into something brand new.
You were that caterpillar going to the butterfly.
It's the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. I am no longer a caterpillar. I can't even pretend to be a caterpillar anymore.
And you needed to do that, right? And we all need to have
I needed to do that.
5D.
Yeah. So I started offering intuitive readings. I started being paid for intuitive reads, mediumship reads. I got to Knoxville and I got into spiritual community, and I started, you know, doing like big expos, and I started doing healing work. Eventually I moved out to Arizona. So another piece in the story where I was intuitively guided to move out to Arizona for 2 years. I had a lot of healing done there. I got into Blue Star Celestial Energy, which is another thing I activate people into Blue Star. It's Pleiadian, Syrian, Big Dipper, like Christ, Golden Mahatma, Christ light energy is really, you know, the connection. And that really shifted me more. When I came back to Knoxville, all of my spiritual friends were like, wow, your energy has really shifted.
Were you in Sedona?
I had visited Sedona a couple times, but it was Tempe, Arizona, that I had done all this healing work. And by the time I got back, I was ready to do, you know, I do quantum healing work on people. I do Blue Star energy healing work. I can do it distance. I can do it in my office. And I feel called to be a light leader. So I started doing Facebook Love, which is on my Facebook page. That I do Facebook Live every morning. And it's just to help people start to shift their consciousness. You know, I also was a therapist. I know dialectical behavioral therapy. I understand trauma. I understand anxiety. So helping people to move past those things, right? That's the exciting part for me. And I started psychic mediumship groups where we just get together and we do that. I met a friend of mine that does holistic wellness alignment. So it's that idea that if you clear, it's just like If you clear stuff like the feelings out and the energy stuff out, that you can heal your body.
Yeah, well, we have about 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to maybe give us a closing, because what you said up front was beautiful, 3D, but I don't think there's been a better way to show that than your own life story. So can you give us some parting thoughts in about 20 seconds about what you've learned or what you want to leave with the audience?
What I want to leave is recognizing that you're not your body, you're not your mind, you're not your feelings, that you are infinite, unlimited energy, and you're projecting out into this sort of 3D physical environment that looks real, but it's not. It's an illusion. And that you have that power within you to shift and change your own life. And part of that starts with that awareness, coming into the moment, non-judgmental stance, and then learning how to make those shifts. Seeing energy healers if you're guided to it. You'll get that intuitive guidance.
Well, that was beautifully said. I appreciate it. Again, you can find Kimberly on Facebook, and my website is CraigERichardson.com. I'll have you back again. I'll look forward to seeing you on your psychic development course. If you want to look that up, that's on Meetup.
We have so much fun.
I will look forward to seeing you next Wednesday night. And thank you so much again for participating, Kimberly.
Thank you, Craig, for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Mind to Heart with me, Craig Richardson. My path has led me from the Protestant and Catholic churches, as well as studies in alchemy, mediumship, Eastern philosophy, and most recently, Edgar Cayce and transpersonal psychology. As an intuitive life coach, I am ready to guide you to an amazing life. For more information about me, visit CraigERichardson.com.
Views expressed on this program are those of the host, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the station, its management, or advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.